Right, we'll go from the bottom on the winners, and I'll kind of throw to you if you have any thoughts
Sure.
on it. The best adaptation, which is one that kind of like ugh, gives me the creeps. Arcane League of Legends. I've never watched a second of it. It's funny because like of the five things here, it's the one people I know have talked about the least. Um,
I
because
have heard people put it out. I think everyone that watches because I'm not going to watch a League of Legends show. Come on, let's be real. I do
no,
actually. I watch an okay amount of competitive league. I watch like the European League of Legends stuff,
okay,
but because I worked for a betting company at one stage, and they were taking on esports for a while. And for my job during the summer, it was to just monitor the esports games and close markets.
right.
And that was my period of briefly watching Dota and League, and I still watch a little League. So there you go.
Um, I have heard great things about the other nominees in the category. I've heard great things about Cyberpunk Edge Runners.
Mm.
The Cuphead show is fabulous. I love
Hmm.
it. Um, I haven't seen either of the Sonic movies yet. Um,
Both very nice little movies.
yeah, I keep meaning maybe that's an over the Christmas holidays. That feels like Christmas holiday movies,
They
where you
do.
can just
They do.
dumb popcorn, possibly fall asleep in the middle of kind of flicks, and Uncharted, which I will never watch as long as I live.
It's the most harmless adventure movie you will ever see in your life.
It
Which
looks like
again,
the most fucking boring shit.
to go back to, it took them 15 years to make.
Mm.
And it is the most generic adventure movie you could possibly conceive. 15
Uh,
years.
Most anticipated game, which I always think is the most hilarious concept.
Hmm.
As like we're and E3 does this as well, where they award something for we're looking forward to this. You've made us think this is going to be good. Fair play to you. And Zelda won that. I think that was fairly obvious.
My favorite part of that is that they did this most anticipated game
Yes.
award, gave it to Zelda, and immediately followed it with a Horizon DLC trailer.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about when they read out the nominees and they said Hogwarts Legacy and it got booed.
Oh, which is also very good. A
Yes.
very good category. Keep it, Keely.
Yeah. My God, we have come a long way from. I remember like shortly, like around the time that game got announced, Hogwarts Legacy was around like just before we all figured out what J.K. Rowling was. And I remember going, oh, maybe they'll finally make a good one of these. There have been good, bad Harry Potter games for sure.
Shout out to Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone on Game Boy.
Mm. But maybe this seems like a really interesting one, and then you're just like, oh, ew. Uh,
Mm, I feel
but
bad for the people making it because it's not their fault, but also,
yeah,
listen, that's the hand you've been dealt. So sorry.
they did release a thing as well, isn't it? That I feel like I read this story about how the developers kind of came out and went, look, Rowling's already made her money from this. You buying it or not buying it is only affecting developers at this stage. She's not getting like an increase in royalties based on sales. So you could feel less bad about it, basically, was the vibe of the message.
But also, if
Um,
you think about that, if this is a successful game and they make another, she'll then make money
yes,
again.
yes. Best esports team. I know you were on the edge of your seat for that,
Oh
Garrett.
yeah, I'm a
Uh,
big LA Thieves fan.
yeah, well, unfortunately, they lost out this year to Loud, who play Valorant. I'm just gonna
Good,
have to take their word for it.
good for them.
Valorant also won best esports game,
Splatoon 3 robbed.
and I know you were delighted with this. The best esports event was the League of Legends World Championship.
Listen, it's the one I watched some of. So you know what?
You tipped the scales.
I'm on the right side of history.
Um, I am just going to skip. There is two
Look at all
more.
these esports
I'm
categories.
not reading a single one of the best esports coach and best esports athlete out of this. No,
No, no,
sorry.
I want you to try and pronounce all of their nicknames.
No, that's all right. I think I'll leave that one. Thanks. It's gonna be like
Dizka,
when it's gonna be
Doom Ross.
yeah, it's gonna be as bad as when I make Mark pronounce Irish names out loud in museums for me.
Shout out to the one guy who's just score. That's
Yeah.
pronounceable.
Um. So then we got content creator of the year. Ugh.
Why weren't we
Ludwig.
nominated?
I know, right? Ludwig got it, and I was like, I felt bad because like I feel like Nibel should have gotten it because he just
Mm,
quit. You know,
feel like we
like
set that one up for a nice little feel good moment, and then nope.
yeah. And then imagine if it had been Saitama that came out and accepted it on his behalf. It would have been great. Best multiplayer game, Splatoon 3. Hup.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
Though a big shout out to I was happy to see Shredder's Revenge got nominated because I recently did a bit of couch co-op playing Shredder's Revenge, and that's a lot of fun to play with people.
Yeah, the night before my brother's wedding, he was home and we sat down and we played like 9 levels of Shredder's Revenge.
His
So there you
last
go.
act as a single man.
Yeah, before he tied
Incredible.
the knot, he played some turtles.
Incredible. Best sim strategy game, Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope.
Good game.
It's the only one of well, I suppose I'll play Two Point Campus at some stage. I was gonna say of the rest of them, it's probably the only one I'll play. Um, best sports or racing game, Gran Turismo 7, which I maybe I'll get around to eventually. FIFA is the only one on that list I've played, so I can't really comment, and I am biased. Best family game,
The Nintendo
Kirby,
category.
Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which is a very charming little game that I feel like because of recency bias and the stuff I've gone back to catch up on, I think is going to get underrepresented from us at Game of the Year. But I really enjoyed Kirby this year.
Yeah, very good game. I probably would have picked Splatoon in this category, but
Yeah.
I'll give it to Kirby. Well done.
Best fighting game, Multiverses. So Barry's happy.
I still have to talk about Sifu. It's not a fighting game, Dave.
No, it's not, is it?
What like if you're nominating Sifu for fighting game here, you have to put like the Yakuza games here for fighting game.
The only way I accept it as a fighting game is because it did make the fighting game community big mad. And that is enjoyable to me.
That's the most important measure here,
yes.
really.
Best RPG, Elden Ring.
Fucking over all these Nintendo games.
Yeah. Over Game of the Year Live Alive, over Game of the Year Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
And Pokemon Scarlet and Violet not even nominated.
Is Triangle Strategy the only one of those nominees that wasn't briefly a Garrett Game of the Year?
Yes, because I think Nobody Saves the World was my Game of the Year while I was playing Triangle Strategy. So
best action adventure game, God of War Ragnarok. I will, by Game of the Year, have more to say on Ragnarok. I'm very slowly getting through it, and I'm surprised how much closer to Mark's takes I am on it that I would have guessed.
Ooh, and I know Barry's not that hot on it either. So is it going to be Jack on an island, or will I be like the surprising God of War guy?
Do you know what I'll do? I'll give you a summation of my thoughts of it. I very much feel like, you know, with Horizon Forbidden West, right? Where it was just more of that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I will say in Forbidden West case, once you get like to the part where in classic RPG style, like we were talking about earlier, where the game finally opens up hours into it, they've done more with it. Whereas like with God of War Ragnarok is like, oh, you literally just gave us more of that. And it's a little bit more tedious. And there's the pacing of it is kind of all over the place because the stretches between the really cool bits are much further apart. And there's much more of a sense in that game that there were deliberate attempts to keep you busy for a while rather than do an important / cool thing. You know, where you just feel like, oh, this is just filler because we can't, they feel like they can't go straight into the next narrative or action heavy bit yet. Yeah, I will say it has one of the strongest opening like hour or two stretches of a game I've played this year. But short of that, like the longer I play it, the more my score is slowly coming down.
For like Game of the Year as well, like for Game of the Year, you want like an idea. You know, you want the thing that makes this better than every other game.
Yeah.
And it's so very rarely, well, they just did the old thing again, but it's still a good version of the old thing again, but that's not Game of the Year, you know, when you don't feel it in your gut.
Do you know what? Like sometimes you get a game where it's like, oh, all I want from a sequel is more of that, please. And there's sometimes where you do get more of that, please, and you're like, hell yeah. Like I remember a game that Jack as well was particularly high on, Miles Morales. When that came out, people by and large were like, it's basically just more of that other Spider-Man game, and hell yeah. Whereas you get more of God of War from a couple of years ago in Ragnarok, and you're kind of like, oh, maybe that wasn't what I really wanted.
Yeah, it was like the Doom Eternal situation as well, wasn't it? Where it's like, all I want is more Doom, and then you play as like, oh.
Yeah. And again, Doom Eternal had that thing where they were like the things they added to the game were it felt
Hardcore.
less like really cool ideas and more like here's something to keep you busy.
Mm.
Like yeah, putting in platforming
Oh,
puzzles.
those platforming puzzles.
Yeah.
Oh, no, 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 no,
Oh, don't
no.
get me started about Doom Eternal again. Go back to that game of the year to hear me talk about Doom Eternal. But it feels like one of those ones. I think it sounds from Mark's piss and vinegar about it that it may end up in his disappointment of the year list. I don't think it's going to go that far for me, but I think it's going to end up in that no man's land between okayest game and game of the year, where like functionally, mechanically, and in terms of how good the good moments are in it, it's too good for a ham sandwich. But all the connective tissue is nowhere near game of the year either.
Mm,
Which is bitterly disappointing. Best action game, Bayonetta 3.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Even though I am a huge neon white guy. I
Mm.
love neon white.
I
Uh,
think there's a category where Neon White got more robbed.
mm. uh, Innovation and accessibility, God of War Ragnarok. And that's something that I feel like PlayStation first party has absolutely one of the things they're definitely leading on at the moment is accessibility.
Yeah,
Those fucking
I did
first
hear
party
Mark
games.
giving out about the giving you your companion character giving you a prompt for puzzles. It's like there's an option in that menu where you can actually change how often they give that to you
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's how accessible this game is.
Yeah. It's like I really, really like it. That they've done that. Best VR AR game, Moss Book 2. That's the little
Sure.
mouse game, isn't it?
Yeah, apparently there's a second one.
Yeah, this is the literally reading that was the first time I knew. Although I do have to laugh at one of the nominees in this category, all caps, Bone Lab,
Bone Lab.
all caps, one word.
Also, nominating just Among Us VR feels wrong. It's like it's just like an old game but VR as opposed to all these
Yeah,
new VR experiences, which I haven't
yeah.
played and don't exist to me.
Best community support, Final Fantasy 14 Online.
Impact Wrestling robbed.
Best mobile game, Marvel Snap. Fair
Uh,
enough.
sure. Apex Legends Mobile robbed.
Best debut indie game, Stray, which is very funny. That is
Mm.
stretching it.
I do not for a second, Dave, understand why Stray both won this and indie game, by the way,
Yeah,
and was also nominated for Game of the Year. What on earth? Like, it's a nice little game. And
yeah,
I mean that as a pejorative, Dave. I mean it as nice little game.
yeah.
I am being patronizing to Stray.
Stray is straight up on my ham sandwich because it looks good, feels fine. It has no lasting impact on me. I never finished it. I have no intention on finishing it. It's fine.
I don't understand it. I really, especially when you look at like Neon White, people loved Tunic. I hate the game. I don't
Uh,
hate the game. I'm deeply disappointed by the game, but
yeah,
it's better than Stray and Vampire Survivors. Legit great game.
yeah,
What are we
rocks.
doing here?
Yeah, what are we doing? Uh, Best indie game then, as you said, Stray wins again, and up in that it was against Neon White, Sifu, Tunic again, and Cult of the Lamb.
Madness.
Which
Absolute madness.
I get Cult of the Lamb not winning. You know, we talked about it on the pod about like the longer you go on in that game, it kind of like the enjoyment wears a little thin the deeper you get into the game. But like, I'd still probably have that ahead of Stray because it made a stronger impact on me in the start than Stray did.
Yeah, talking about ideas again, like
Mm,
the Cult of the Lamb's ideas versus Stray's ideas. Cult of the Lamb wins every time, even if it
yeah.
didn't fulfill those ideas.
Games for Impact won by As Dusk Falls, which is going to end up on my list of shame for this year because I've had it downloaded on Game Pass for ages and just never gotten to it. Um, Citizen Sleeper is one as well that I really want to get to before Game of the Year. But anyway, best performance, Christopher Judge, God of War Ragnarok. I didn't see it, but apparently he had an epic 8 minute long acceptance speech.
Yeah, because I was watching this during Impact Thursday night. So I was up and I had it on another screen while I was doing Impact related stuff. And I was just like, he's talking for a while, isn't he? Because I had it muted. It's like, oh, he's
Yeah.
still going. I'm sure this
It
is a
was
nice speech.
Was it him who the award was given by Al Pacino?
It was. Al Pacino was fucking off the rails.
Yeah, he was. Or on the rails, as the case may be.
Mm,
Best audio design and score slash music, both won by God of War Ragnarok, which to be fair, like pretty good sound in those games.
Yeah, but Xenoblade Chronicles was which they IGN fixed this list. You just have Yasunori Mitsuda's name. Xenoblade Chronicles is supposed to be there,
Uh, it's just Mitsuda as a general concept was nominated.
which means he's been fucking robbed then.
Yeah. Best art direction, Elden Ring. Can't
Mm-hmm.
disagree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Best narrative, God of War Ragnarok.
Sure.
I haven't gotten very far in, so I can't comment on it as a whole. But I'm also gutted Immortality didn't win because that is a fucking oh my god, Immortality rocks so hard.
I think
Uh,
that's the classic, just more people played God of War answer,
yes,
isn't it?
and that is like Immortality as well is a pure narrative game where like God of War Ragnarok like narrative is a part of it.
Mm.
It's more gameplay game. But anyway, um, next up we have if I hit the up arrows correctly, best game direction, Elden Ring. Can't disagree. And
Mm-hmm.
game of the year, Elden Ring.
Mm-hmm. Fucking
Again,
Stray,
Stray,
Stray.
Stray being
Both of us
nominated.
immediately going in on Stray again.
Yeah, it's the only one that really stands out like crazy on that list. Because again, I will take at face value what you said about Xenoblade, even though it's not for me. Uh, God of War Ragnarok. I feel like we on the podcast have been taking crazy pills because I see so many roses being given to that game that I'm not wild about yet. Horizon again, it's been a victim of the release schedule this year, much like the original Horizon was, where I feel like if I had months where I was just playing that game, I'd love it a lot more. So
Mm.
I don't see, I don't take exception to it being on here. Same with Plague Tale. I've heard people really like that second Plague Tale, but I haven't
People
gotten
that
to it.
like those Plague Tale games fucking love those Plague Tale games,
Yeah, yeah.
and they will tell you about it.
One Barry Murphy, for instance.